Hi, class. My name is Jack Wilson,
And I'm Morgan Shepard.
and we're working on assignment 2.
When comparing managed versus free market, we use the United States, Canada, and Singapore as our countries. We will discuss the economic histories. The points of comparison used are the GDP, gross domestic product, direct investment, level of corruption, and the level of economic freedom within these three countries.
So, starting with the United States, they have one of the highest GDPs in the world at over $18.5 trillion, high foreign direct investment, over $3 trillion again. And the U.S. economy kind of started becoming a global player during the industrial age through this urban development and the idea of industrialization. Some of those main exports are machinery, aircraft and spacecraft, and vehicles, and a lot of this happened during World War II. That was the basis of the U.S.'s economic power being kind of started with the idea of expanding the U.S. Military, and then through the economy becoming stronger. So when it comes to corruption, the United States is ranked as the 18th least corrupt country, and a lot of that has to do with a strong legal system, policing the economy, and the court system doing its job properly. When it comes to economic freedom, the U.S. Was a very free market for a long time, and now it's becoming more mixed with some more government intervention. A lot of that is because of the high government debt. Otherwise, there's a lot of room for economic growth and economic freedom within the United States.
For Singapore, the GDP is roughly $296 billion. The foreign direct investment is $61.597 billion. Singapore became an independent country in 1965, right after they separated from Malaysia, and this is where their economic growth began. They have high urban density and globalization. Their three main exports are technology, IT products, medical devices, and pharmaceuticals. Singapore is also the 7th least corrupt country, and this is due to their commitment to fighting graft. The economic freedom, they are ranked second on the Economic Freedom Index at an overall 88.6. And while the cost of living is high in Singapore, the quality of life is high as well. In comparison to the U.S., the cost of living is only 11.04% less in New York. Singapore also provides high salaries, low income tax, and low unemployment. These are all factors in building the second strongest economy in the world.
Now, Canada has a GDP about the third of the U.S., and GDP is just the idea of everything that is produced within a country. So when you think of Canada being a third the size of the U.S. economically with their GDP, it sounds about right. The foreign direct investment being over $1 trillion, 1,000 billion, over $1 trillion. Canada's beginnings were strong around the time of the American colonization. They had fur trade, agriculture, fishing, kind of the basics before the industrial age. Then this idea of urbanization that happened in the U.S. also happened in Canada, where people started moving into cities. There was a lot more industry, a lot more jobs in a centrally located area. And during World War II, they became more of from a less rural economy to a really centralized kind of urban economy. Their main exports are vehicles, oil, and machinery. They also have a lot of natural resources in Canada. So when you think of, wood, oil, those kind of things, that's a lot of the backbone of Canadian exports. When it comes to corruption, they're in the top 10 of least corrupt countries at number 9. They have a public service commission that really does a good job of keeping the government out of public enterprise. But with the same idea of the U.S., Canada does use its government to control some sectors. Healthcare is completely ran by the Canadian government. When you think of the postal service, that's also could be a free enterprise for private business, but the governments of both the U.S. and Canada do run those. So when it comes to economic freedom, the Public Service Commission does a good job of keeping that government out of private business, and due to that, the corruption is very low. So when we're looking at these three countries, they're all very strong economically, fairly similar in their cost of living. Canada being having the highest quality of life in the world, and so these are three similar countries that are in Singapore being in a different part of the world that all kind of are based on some of the same principles.